Since the 1970s, punk rock music has been a voice of the counterculture youth, and it is still as alive today as it was back when it originated. My name is Alexandra, and while I am not one of the influential voices of punk rock music like Jeremy McKinnon, who I've videotaped here, I am a part of the community it created and a huge fan of going to punk rock concerts. Here I am at a concert. Here I am at a different concert. Here I am meeting a band, and here I am meeting Bam Margera.
Hey! Oh! Let's go!
1974 saw formations of the bands such as the Ramones, Blondie, and the Talking Heads appearing in the New York scene, playing in punk clubs such as CBGB and Max's Kansas City. However, in 1975 in London, a band known as the Sex Pistols was formed and created an entire UK punk movement. In 1976, the Sex Pistols would tour with recently formed bands, the Slits and another notable band, The Clash. The United States punk scene became inspired by the UK movement, and between 1977 and 1979, it began to form its own subgenre of punk, known as hardcore punk. This time saw the creation of bands such as the Misfits and Black Flag. The increase in popularity of new wave music in the 1980s, punk rock music went underground for a bit, but in 1984, NoFX was formed, following with The Offspring in 1985. The hardcore punk scene started to die out with The Clash and Black Flag breaking up in 1986, and it would be saved with the creation of Epitaph Records in 1988. In 1989, a band named Sweet Children was formed and later changed its name to Green Day. And in 1992, an American band named Blink was formed, but due to a lawsuit from an Irish band of the same name, the band was forced to change their name to Blink-182. And just like the changes of names of these bands, punk rock music changed, and it created what is now known as pop punk. This new subgenre helped bring the punk scene to the mainstream, with radio stations such as K-Rock giving airtime to songs such as Basket Case by Green Day in 1994 and Damn It by Blink-182 in 1997. The creation of the Vans Warped Tour in 1994 by Kevin Lyman also helped popularize pop-punk music by giving bands that were just starting out a platform in the shape of a cross-country tour. Sadly, the Vans Warped Tour held its last shows in 2019. I was there.
I'm a realist and an optimist, but I swear to you, I'm not getting over this!
The early 2000s saw the punk scene explode. Bands like Green Day were selling out arenas. Band members were creating their own clothing lines, like Travis Barker of Blink-182, creating famous Stars and Straps. Punk music videos were being played on MTV. Bands were getting featured in television shows like The Simpsons. The band Bowling for Soup did all of the music for the Disney animated show Phineas and Ferb, and the singer, Jaret Reddick, who is pictured in the middle here, is now the official voice of Chuck E. Cheese. The Ramones and The Clash were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2002 and 2003, respectively. Also in 2003, a new influential band was formed in Ocala, Florida. This band is A Day to Remember, and concert footage of them from 2018 was featured in the beginning of this presentation. I'm going to explain a few subgenres that came out in the early 2000s while trying to keep everything brief, because punk rock became very dynamic in variations. In 2000, Linkin Park released their debut album, Hybrid Theory. While rap rock was nothing new, this album and band created a sound which mixed punk rock music with rap, with songs like In the End, and paved the way for bands such as 21 Pilots. In 2002, My Chemical Romance released their debut album, I Brought You My Bullets, You Brought Me Your Love, and in 2003, Fall Out Boy released their debut album, Take This to Your Grave. Both bands are credited with pioneering the subgenre of emo music, which would take off around 2006 and include other bands such as Panic at the Disco and Paramore, both of which are not considered emo in their recent albums. The early 2000s also saw the formation of a bunch of different core variations of bands, such as metalcore, deathcore, skacore, and the list goes on. But for the sake of keeping things simple, I'm going to focus on the perseverance of hardcore. Hardcore bands that formed in the early 2000s kept a similar sound to prior hardcore bands by mixing singing with screaming, but included more refined lyrics and better audio quality. Examples of hardcore bands that came out in the 2000s include 4 Year Strong and The Story So Far. Towards the 2010s, punk bands began going underground again and playing in smaller venues. Bands that were created during the 2010s, such as Neck Deep, State Champs, and Grayscale, relied on shows such as the Vans Warped Tour to get their name out there. In 2020, a global pandemic called the coronavirus struck the world, and large gatherings were prohibited. For punk music, this meant no live shows. Bands have relied on streaming platforms such as Spotify and Pandora to recommend their music to listeners. Some record labels and bands have held free virtual concerts to improve morale during these bleak times. And I truly hope things can return to normal soon because I miss live music more than anything right now. I do not own any of the music or images in this presentation that I am not featured in. Punk rock music has been a big influence on me my entire life. Thank you for listening.